Alright, welcome back. In this section, we're going to look at the command line fundamentals. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is what we are going to achieve in this course. And in this section, we're going to first start by defining what the command line is. And after we're done defining that, we are going to learn the command line navigation and file structure. And then we'll learn how we can manipulate files and folders using the command line. So let us see what the command line is, which is very important. For you to start using the command line, you need to know what it is. So we define the command line as, or the terminal, in other way you can call that a terminal, as a faster and more powerful way to maneuver your operating system than using the graphical user interface, such as the Window Explorer or the Mac Finder. Let me try to explain this by coming back to my desktop. This is the Mac Finder. Let's take, for instance, I'm on my desktop and I already have one folder here. If I want to create a new folder, I'll have to right click and then I'll call this empty folder, and the folder has been created on my desktop. Alright, an easier way of doing this is using the command line or the terminal. So when we use the command line, we use special keywords which do everything we can do with the graphical user interface and even lots more, as we are going to see in this video. So how are we going to be using the command line? We are going to use the command line to navigate around. We are going to use it to create directories, that is folders, and remove files. We'll also use it to move things around, to copy and paste things wherever we want them. We are going to use it for version control. But in this course, I'm not going to talk about version control because I want to emphasize more on Python. And we are going to use it to execute Python scripts, which you'll get to see as we continue. Alright, next we're going to talk about the the operating system file structure. What is the operating system file structure? It organizes files and folders in hierarchy with their parents and children, all relative to a base root directory. So let me try to explain this by opening a new browser. You can open a new browser and then you press your shift and your tilde symbol. This is your tilde symbol, which is above the tab. But you do that by holding shift and that symbol, and you press enter. When you do that, this is what we are having here. If we take a look at this place, I want you to take a look at this very well. You see that you have a slash users and then my home directory. So whenever you press that tilde symbol on any browser, it takes you automatically to your home directory. Even when you do that on your terminal or your git bash for Windows users, it will take you to this place as well. Now what we have here is this. Like we defined here, we said that it organizes folders in hierarchy like a tree with parents and children. If we look at this, you see a parent directory. That means you want to go back to the parent of this here. Let's see that, and then look at this place as well and see what happens. You can see now that that name here has gone out and we are now in the parent, and you see the name is here. That means that this is the parent of all these. These are the children of this username. And then we still go back again. There's another parent directory here. When we click on that, we see that it takes us again to another parent. Now this is the root. If you see what we have here, we said that they are all relative to the base root, and the base root is represented with a / only. Let's see that here. You can see it's just a / and we have the users here. We click on that, it takes us here. There are a couple of other users here. This is a guest can log in and some shared files too, and these are hidden files which you cannot see when you are just checking through using this. That is your graphic user interface. So that means you can do a lot more with this. So I'll come back here, and then you see that some of these things I installed some of these here, while some are pre-installed. Like you can see, this is my desktop. We are back to where we are here, and you can see we have that empty folder we created untitled folder that was there before, and a lot of other things that are not visible when we work with this only. So let us continue. I believe we are getting the picture of what I am saying. If not, you can watch the video again to try to understand. Okay, now the absolute path for the root for the home user is users/papi, which is what we have here when we just type that tilde symbol. This is the absolute path of the user. And then let us see how to find where we are. You might be working and then you are confused, you don't really know where you are. Now this is the point I would want you to open your git bash or your terminal on your computer. Alright, now I am on my terminal. I had to make it big so you'll get to understand. So let us see where we are, and then to find out where we are, we use the keyword pwd, which stands for print working directory. So the pwd will tell you the full absolute path of where you are at. That means if I am to type pwd on my terminal, I'll copy this and it will show me exactly where I am. Let's see that. Alright, I just copied and it did that for me. But if I type pwd, you see I am on my desktop. You can see that here. There are a couple of ways you can try to see this, but for me it is almost in between my desktop name, my PC's name, and my home directory name. So this gives the absolute path that is telling me where I am working on at that point in time. So let us see something else. The next thing we are going to look at is how we can navigate absolutely. And then to navigate absolutely, we use the keyword cd, which stands for change directory. And then after we've typed cd, we type the absolute path of the folder where we want to navigate to. I'll explain that again. I am on my desktop, and then I have two folders on my desktop. One is empty folder and the other one is untitled folder. Let's say I want to navigate into this absolutely. That means I have to type cd first, a space, and then the name of the directory I want to navigate into. In this case, it is empty directory, which I created, empty folder, and I press enter. You can now see that I am in this place. Let's see our path again, where we are at pwd print working directory. You can now see that we have our user, my home directory, my desktop, as well as the folder where I am working on now. So this is it. You print working directory at first, it tells you where you are, and then we want to navigate into a directory now, which is users. This is just from the example, but I believe you understand what I explained. Now what this does is, if you type cd change directory to users, what it does is that it absolutely takes you back to this place. Then you have, if you print again, you're going to have your users again, which is here. Then you can begin to navigate all of this. Let's see that. I'll just change my directory to cd/users. You can see now I am in the users. Let's see. So that is the same thing which I just explained now. Then the next thing we're going to see here is how we can navigate relatively. Navigating relatively is using we use the keyword cd as well, but now we do some dot. The dot what it does is that it takes you back to the parent directory. Let's see how it works. I print my present working directory. It shows me that I am on my desktop, and then I see the dot. What it does is that it takes me back to the home directory, papi now. So if I print again my working directory, you see that I am now in this directory. What I have said is this. I'll go back to my desktop. Alright, now I'm on my desktop. We can see that I'm on my desktop, as you can see. If I am to go back, I'll type cd space dot dot. What it does is that it takes me a step backward to my root folder. If I now print my working directory again, you can see where I am at now. So that is how it works. Now you can also do something like, the path you're going to cd space, I am going to my desktop, and from my desktop I'm going to the empty folder. You see, directly it takes me there. So if you already know the path you want to take, you can quickly do that and it will take you to that place directly. So let's see our path again. Users, my name, desktop, and then empty folder. I want to go to desktop. You remember what we'll use, cd space dot dot, and then it takes us back here. Now for instance, if you are trying to go into something that is long, let's say cd, you want to go into empty, but you don't want to make mistakes in typing. Once you begin to type, you just have to press the tab on the keyboard. It auto completes that for you, and then you press on enter. You can see that is easier so that you don't make mistakes, because if I'm to type cd empry folder, it will tell me that there is no file or directory with that name. So in order to avoid that, most times we have to use the tab keyword, so it helps us navigate quickly. So let's continue. Let us now see what is inside the directory. We have been looking at how we can navigate through directories. How do we find out the thing that is inside the directory we are at? Now a keyword is used for that, and it is the ls, which stands for list. L and S coming out from the list. So the keyword ls will list the contents of a directory. So let's see that before I continue to explain further. I'm in my empty folder. Remember, I created a folder and it was empty. So if I am to ls, nothing would be printed out. Let me clear this to make some room for us. So if I am to list the things that are inside, it will show something that it will not show anything. That means it is empty. But if let me go backward, and I'll go back, and now I'm on my desktop. Let's try to list what we have on our desktop. I'll ls, and then you can see that I have two things on my desktop, empty and untitled folder. But there are a couple of other things we can do. We can also apply some other options, such as A, to list everything that is in the directory, including the hidden ones. And we can also use L to list the longer format. This is it. I'll come back here. Let's say now we just have two things here. Let's list some of the hidden files. We have ls and we have A. You can see there are a couple of other things which have been shown. So that is another option we can add to that. We can also use ls L to list everything. Now if we look at this, we just have two. We have, these are permissions, read, write, execute for user and group and the rest of them. We're not going into that now, but you can see now that we also have the time this was created and all that. So, and it was created by who created it and all that we can see here. I'm not trying to explain all of that now. So another thing we can do is we can combine both of them, ls A and L. We want all of them, and then we want them in the long form. So if we press that, you can see on the desktop we have all of these things here. It's a combination of everything, as well as when they were created and the whole information about them. So this is what I have here. I've already explained this. LA or AL, whatever. You remember, I used LA here, and here I used AL. It does the same thing. So I can, if I am to use that, I'm going to get everything I have here. I think here was my root folder which I used. I'll show you that. That means I have to go backwards, cd dot dot, and then if I ls LA or AL, your wish, you list everything which I have on my desktop, on my root folder, sorry, on my home folder rather. And so the next thing we're going to see is how we can create directory. and then we can create directory using the mkdir keyword, which stands for make directory. So from what I have here, the command mkdir followed by the name of the new directory will create a new child directory inside the current directory. So what we mean is this: I'll print my working directory, and then I'm on my desktop, as you can see the path there, and I want to create a new directory which is called Python series. I'll have to press mkdir Python series. What happens is that it creates a directory inside the desktop directory. So let's see that here. I'll clear my screen so you can see what we're doing. So I want to go to my desktop. You know how to do that. I want to create a directory called Python series. I use mkdir Python series and enter. So let's see if it is created. How do we list the things we have? We do that by ls, if you remember. So you can see we have this created for us because we use this mkdir keyword. So that is all that is here. If we list, we have that, and other, this dot signifies other directories which were there before. And let's see something. If we now type ls space al, we just created that now, and you can see it's created at the specific time. The dates and all that information will be there, and the permissions here as well. Okay, now let's go further. After that, I have to do this so we get to understand. Now let's go into that directory which we've created, cd and Python series, enter. Let's print our working directory. Now we're inside that, users, the username, desktop, and Python series. And the next thing we're going to do here is see how we can create files. We've seen how we can create directory using mkdir. Now to create file, we use touch, touch. Now the touch command is followed by the file name and the file type. That means the extension, and this will create a file with that type. How do we do that? We want to create a file that is called len with an extension or a tst format. So what we do is touch space len.tst, and then it creates a file for us. So while we are still in that folder, let's see what we can do with that. Touch len.tst, and then the file has been created. Let's see. We list what we have there. We have len.tst. We can create a couple of files at the same time. So I want to create 3 files at once. I'll touch len2 because I already have one.tst. You give a space, and let's give another file, home.html, another file, index.css, and enter. So if we do this now, let's list what we have there. You see we have this one we created, as well as the other 3 we just created now. They are in the folder. So that is how we can create a new file. Remember, to create a folder we use the make directory, and to create a file we use touch. Next up, we're going to see how we can remove files. Now we've created files using touch. Some of the files are not needed. Let's take, for instance, we have home, index, we have len, and we have len2, but we don't need len2. So how do we remove this? So we remove files by using the rm keyword, which stands for remove. So how we do that is we list the files that are there, so that we want to be sure that the file we want to remove is there in the directory, and then we remove it by using the rm space, the file name, and its extension. And then let's see that we want, but in this case we want to remove len2. So what we have to do is rm space len2.tst, and then we press enter. Let's list again. We can now see that len2 is no longer available for us because it has been removed. So now that we have seen how we can remove files, let's see how we can remove directories as well. We remove directories by combining the rm keyword as well as R, which stands for recursive, and F for force, without giving us any warning. So this is how we do it. The first thing I had to do was I had to come out of the folder which we were working on, so that we have a lot of directories which we can remove. Now we have empty folder, we have Python series, and then we have the untitled folder. Now I want to remove this empty folder. What I have to do is I have to type rm space dash rf and then the folder name or the directory name, whichever one you want to use, empty folder, and enter. So if I'm to list now, you see that it is not available. But then remember, this one has some files in it. If we want to remove that, we can also use it as well, but we should be conscious of the fact that when we're using this, it is dangerous because it doesn't give any warning and it deletes both the files that are contained in the folder. Remember, we have some files in this one, so if I am to remove that, I won't get any warning and it will just be deleted automatically. So I press enter. If I list again, I am left with what I have here, and you can see whatever we're doing here is happening here. That means that file is not available here again. So next up, let us look at what we've talked about. The first thing I explained was that I told you that the operating system file structure is hierarchical. That is, it is tree based on parents, children, grandchildren, and all that. And then the next thing we looked at is how we can navigate using cd, how we can use pwd, how we can use ls. And then you should also remember that this slash stands for root directory, and then this tilde symbol is to take us back to the home. Well, in order, let me show you something. Whatever folder we are on, if we want to go back to the home, we just change directory to tilde, and then it takes us directly to the home. cd, I'll go into my desktop and I'll go into my untitled folder and enter. If I check my working directory, it shows me where I am. But if I want to go back to the root folder, wherever I am, I just have to put my cd and my tilde, and then let's see again, it is back to this place. So that is how it works. And then we should also, I have also explained this takes you back to the parent, your double dot, and then this one is your current position. And then I also told us how we can manipulate files using mkdir, how we can use touch. I did not explain this for now, but I'll explain that later, how we can move files and rename files, and then how we can remove files and how we can remove directories using R, or we force by including F. So this is the next thing we're going to do, is the time for you to do your own. So this is what I want you to do in this section. I want you to create a new directory. Whether on your desktop or any folder, but it will be preferable you create a folder for the project we are going to be working on throughout the course, so that they will be together in one place, organized. So I want you, in that folder you've created, I want you to make a directory called continent, and then in that directory, the next thing I want you to do is you go into that directory and then you create all the continents we have. I think there are 7 in number. You create all the continents that we have, and then when you create a directory for each of them. And remember how I told you can make a couple of files at the same time. It also applies to directory. You can make a lot of directories at the same time, but it will be better if you can try once and then you do that again, using how you can make them at the same time. Now in each of the directories, when you go into one directory, I want you to make five countries each, using the extension .txt for the first one, .html, .js, .css, .py for each of the directories of the continents. You make 5 countries each with this, and then after you're done with that, I want you to remove a directory. From each directory, I want you to remove a file, and then after you're done with that, I want you to remove 2 directories, and then I want you to delete the entire continent directory which you created. So it's like creating something, manipulating all of them, and then deleting them.